The Last Supper, after the Last Supper, right?
Yes.
Judas left. Right. Jesus took his disciples, walked through the streets of Jerusalem, through the east gate, down the valley, across the brook Kidron, to the Garden of Gethsemane. Right? Mm-hmm. He left some disciples there. Okay? Then he took how many with him a little further?
3.
3. Who?
Yeah. Peter, James, and John.
What did he do with them?
He said, wait here.
Watch and
fall.
wait.
Yeah,
well,
and wait.
And he went and he prayed. And we have his prayer. Okay? He comes back. What does he find?
3 people sleeping.
And the others?
I don't remember.
They were all sleeping. So if they were all sleeping, how do we know what he said? Come on, Mark, you're a preacher here. Come on, help me out.
well, that's
how did they know? How did they know? Because he said you couldn't even wait. Well, watch with me 1 hour, and he went back to pray, and we have that. And he came back. They were sleeping again.
Well,
he
had
did it
Cliff
3 times.
Notes ready for them.
What's that?
He had Cliff Notes ready for them.
Well, the usual standard thing that I get is, well, the Holy Spirit led that. I said, well, that doesn't work for me. Doesn't work for me. There's got to be a practical explanation for this, right?
And I'm sure you have one.
Oh, yes, but now you have to come to a Cape Bible class to find out the answer.
Yeah, of course you would do that.
Study the Word. Mark chapter 14:51. It says, when the soldiers came, or the temple guards came, it says they found a young man hiding in the bushes. He was dressed in a sheet. They grabbed the sheet, and we have our first Bible streaker. He ran away naked, okay? And that's in the Gospel of Mark because the young man obviously was John Mark. See?
And that's
that didn't cost you anything.
Knew what was going on.
Of course, he heard the whole thing.
Yeah.
Hello?
That's what I love about him.
That's how I like to teach. You get them going, slap them, make them cry.
Well, that's why you're so different than the way you approach and the way you think and the questions that you ask. You're not always satisfied with the standard pat answer.
Well,
and why is that?
You have to, the gospel is exciting, okay? Whenever I read the gospels and everything, you have to turn on the TV in your head. It's useless just to say, well, this is what Mark says, this is what this one says, that one. I mean, anybody can do that. I mean, when I was in school, well, our history teacher, I can remember, our history teacher would say to us, okay, kids, I want you to study chapters 4, 5, and 6 for Monday, because then we'll talk about that. And I said, well, if I have the book, why do I need you? We have the book. Everybody's got a Bible. And if we have the Bible, then why do they need us? They can read it for themselves. The idea is to turn on their minds. They have to see in television, television's got to be turned on their mind. They have to see Jesus going into the Garden of Gethsemane. They have to understand that there were people there, the situation was there, and it wasn't normal, okay? Because the crucifixion of Jesus was a conspiracy of murder. The Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Romans all conspired together to get rid of one carpenter's son from a nowhere place in Galilee. Jesus was on the bottom of this. They never got along before, these three sections of people, but they all had a different agenda. The Pharisees wanted to save the religion. They're the ones who are the guardians of the Torah, of the scrolls, as they went to Babylon. They are the ones who carried it on their backs. Okay, and they kept it for 500 years until Jesus came. Jesus was there they felt he was there to destroy their religion, get rid of their fasting, get rid of their false religious attitude. The Sadducees, of course, were in charge of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. They made a deal with the Romans with a little bakshish, with a little backhand here, that as long as they could control the temple from father to son-in-law, Caiaphas and Annas, they would be fine. Jesus comes in, makes a whip, and drives them all out of the courtyard of the temple, overturning the money and things like that. I'm sure there were priests going to the temple the next day with whip marks across their face. So they thought, the guy's got to go. In fact, after he raised Lazarus from the dead, Caiaphas said, it's better for one man to die and to save the nation rather than go on like this. We cannot let this man do anything like this, because they were afraid the Romans were going to come and take away their power. Pilate had to put Jesus on trial. They said, he's a king, calls himself King of the Jews. And Pilate went back and he says, are you the King of the Jews? And Jesus said, what? If I were a king, my people would fight. Is that what he said? Well, they actually did. Peter cut off the ear of Malchus, the servant of the high priest. So they did fight, right? So was Jesus right or wrong?
It was a short fight.
It was a short fight. We're the winner. Right. So Pilate had to put Jesus on trial. And he was in trouble anyway because his appointment was arranged by a thug in the Praetorian Guard called Sejanus. And after Tiberius was murdered and everything like that, and a new guy took over, Pilate was on sort of like a short little stick here. So he thought, let's keep everything quiet. It's a Passover, okay? We don't need trouble from these guys. The Jews are always troublesome. In fact, he went back out to them and said, I see nothing wrong with him. Try him according to your law. And they said, no, but we are not allowed to put anybody to death. So Pilate handed him over. Pharisees, Sadducees, Pilate, bing, done deal. Jesus was murdered. That's how you teach. If you just say, Jesus was crucified, everybody knows that. And I say, yes, we understand. We got the picture of, every church has a cross with Jesus there and stuff like that. So, but that doesn't mean anything. You have to make it live for the people who have read the Bible, who know the Bible, in order to empower them and get them to thinking about their situation where they are.